Hi friends, this is Camil Parkhe. In earlier episodes, we had spoken about arrival of Cynthia Farrar in Mumbai and her work there. Later on, we have also spoken about the influence she had on Savitribai Phule. The Maharashtra government has published many books on writings of Savitribai Phule. The editor of these collections, Hari Narke, has said that Savitribai Phule took the lessons in teaching. She was trained as a teacher by Cynthia Farrar in Nagar and subsequently by Mrs. Mitchell's normal school in Pune. Now, who is this Mrs. Mitchell? The name Mrs. Mitchell appears at various places in biographies of Savitribai and Savitribai Phule. This Mrs. Mitchell is the wife of Reverend James Mitchell, the Scottish missionary who established schools in Pune. In 1830s, it was in this school, the Scottish missionary school run by James Mitchell, that Savitribai Phule studied along with his friends Sadashiv Rao Govande, Bhavalkar and others. This Cynthia Farrar, her name is not much known. I was curious to know what was the life and works of this Cynthia Farrar. Friends, when the Christian missionaries arrived in India at the beginning of 19th century, when the British East India Company had established its hold in various parts of India. When these missionaries arrived in India, they had a particular habit. They wrote diaries in which they mentioned their daily activities, the persons they met, the important activities they had done during the day. Besides, these missionaries also sent detailed annual reports to their headquarters, in which they mentioned their activities during the year. These reports were sent to the missionary headquarters in America, England, Scotland. Here, this is one of the specimens of the annual reports. This was the report of the American mission for the year 1862. Thus, these records, various documents reveal that Cynthia Farrar is not an imaginary person. She is a historical person. Her works are Her activities are mentioned in these reports. Cynthia Farrar, what did she do? All these details are provided in the report, the annual report sent by the mission in 1862. There I'm going to read out from there to know about the personality of Cynthia Farrar. I'm very happy that this is the first time the life and works of Cynthia Farrar are brought, compiled and made known to the people. I'm quoting from the report. While we thus speak the language of encouragement and of thanksgiving, we have also occasion for mourning. They are announcing some sad news. God has come very high to us and removed from our midst one who had labored in connection with this mission, Miss Farrar, whose frail body had been gradually sinking under the power of disease during the later part of 1861, grew weaker and weaker daily as the new year commenced, and on the 25th of January, after 36 hours of great suffering, she was released from pain and admitted, we have no doubt, to the presence of that Savior whom she had loved to serve and whose glory she longed to behold. And the subsequent paras give the history of this person. We have not the information necessary to enable us to give an account of her, Cynthia Farrar's, early life. We only know that in 1827 she came to India in company of her cousin, Reverend Cyrus Stone, to engage in missionary labors. Landing in Bombay in December of that year, she immediately commenced her efforts for the education of Hindu girls in that city. She established a number of schools containing girls of even the highest class caste, and she continued to superintend and instruct them for several years, being encouraged and aided in her interesting work by ladies and gentlemen of the highest rank in Bombay. She for some time superintended a number of schools supported by the funds of an English society, which were disbursed by the vernacular Archdeacon Carr, by Venerable Archdeacon Carr. She loved her work and would not give it up for any earthly good. Ill health brought on her severe labors, compelled her to return to America in 1837. But in 1839, she again returned to India in the family of Reverend Mr. Burgess. And immediately after her arrival in the country, she removed with Mr. and Mrs. Burgess to Ahmednagar, where she continued to reside with the exception of few months, laboring faithfully till her death. She was always anxious to be doing something for her Savior, and as she remarked on her deathbed, she brought her labor, feeble and almost worthless, though she considered them to be and laid them down every night at the feet of her gracious Saviour, begging him to accept the offerings. This was the spirit with which she labored. Many of her scholars remembered her with great affection. After they had gone out from the school and became wives and mothers. And she frequently received letters from them, evincing their affection for her and their gratitude for the instruction they had received. And here, the next para, we find the mention of one young man from Pune who met Farrar Madam and started the first girls' schools in Pune. Of course, we know who the person is, that, though his name is not mentioned here. This person is, of course, great social reformer, Mahatma Phule. I'm going ahead with the report of the mission. It was with great joy that Miss Farrar received call from some Miss Farrar was also glad to be able to offer some advice and assistance in regard to the establishment and management of female schools to a young gentleman from Pune, who was deeply interested in the education of females. After returning from Ahmednagar to Pune, he commenced schools for the education of Hindu girls, which were supported by natives and some benevolent English gentlemen, and continued to prosper for some years. Miss Farrar had the esteem of the native community in a very high degree. From their particular views of female character, they looked upon like a divine person. Her purity and holiness in life, her benevolence of heart, and her active labors for the welfare of her own sex were altogether new to these people. When she died, great numbers of native women were deeply affected, and hundreds who had never before attended a Christian service came to her funeral. And as they approached the coffin to view the well-known countenance for the last time, almost all of them bowed themselves before her as though she was some deity. And it is probable, that had she been buried in some place easily accessible to all, many of these women would have visited it as they visit their own sacred shrines and made offerings at the grave. Such was the feeling of respect and veneration manifested at her death. Her memory will live in the hearts of great numbers in this land. And oh, may the recollection of her instructions lead many to the Saviour whom she adored. Miss Farrar died when she had nearly completed her 67th year. She had almost reached the allotted period of human life and went down to the grave like a stalk of corn fully ripe. We cannot mourn for her. She has gone to her rest and to her reward on high. Her works do follow her. It may be it may be matter of interest to some to know that for 20 years before Miss Farrar's death, no missionary or assistant missionary connected with Ahmednagar mission had been removed by death while laboring in the mission in Nagar. The burial ground at Ahmednagar contains the remains of only 3 missionaries till 1862. This way, the Reverend Mr. Harvey, who died in 1832, within 6 months after the establishment of the mission. The second grave was of Mrs. Burgess. Mrs. Burgess, who died in 1842, and Miss Farrar, who died in 1862. After Miss Farrar's death, the girls' school, which she maintained for many years in the Lashkar lines, languished and at length was given up altogether. This was owing to causes which have been in operation for 2 or 3 years back. In consequence of the removal of the artillery and the depot of the instruction from this place 2 years ago, the family which furnished the girls for Miss Farrar's school removed from the station, and the number of girls thus diminished, so that even before Miss Farrar's death, there were only 13 or 14 regular attendants at the school. So it was found that girls could not be collected in any numbers. It was determined that the same school where taught the girls' school and who had for many years been Miss Farrar's favorite teacher should be employed in teaching boys' school in the schoolroom built by Colonel Pottinger in the Lashkar lines. A large school was immediately collected, and about 60 boys attending regularly, giving 1 anna to each to the teacher for their reunion. Miss Farrar had always been interested in the boys' school, which was taught in the same schoolhouse, and for a long time has superintended it herself. And the property which she left at her death was left alike for the support of the boys' school and the girls' school in the Lashkar lines in Nagar. The mission therefore conceived that they were carrying out the wishes of Miss Farrar in sustaining the school for boys by the proceeds of her property. The school has done well so far. Several girls' schools continued to be taught by the teacher after he began to teach the boys' school, and these girls' schools came to be known as to teach all the property left by Miss Farrar, including the unexpected funds remaining from other subscriptions for her girls' school, will be expended in the support of schools for children or the support of such children while attending the schools of the mission. This was Miss Farrar's wish at the time of her death, and this wish will be fully carried out by the mission. The report submitted by the Nagar mission to its headquarters in America for the year 1920 mentions that there are 3 schools in Nagar which are called the Farrar schools. The same report also carries a black and white photo of the girls studying in these Farrar schools. We have gone through several documents referring to Miss Cynthia Farrar. But so far, I have not come across any photo of Farrar. It is possible that the photo of Cynthia Farrar may be found in some of the documents of American Marathi Mission. Miss Cynthia Farrar was buried at the cemetery in Nagar. Her photo we have not yet found. Likewise, even her place of everlasting rest we will not be able to find at the cemetery in Nagar. There is no monument, no school, no educational institute named after Cynthia Farrar, either in Nagar or in Mumbai or any other place. But such monument are hardly relevant or they do not matter. The work Cynthia Farrar did in Mumbai and Nagar are their real monuments. Jyotiba Phule and Savitribai Phule carried on the work of women's school, girls' school started by Cynthia Farrar, and the foundation laid by Jyotiba and Savitribai Phule in girls' education paved the way for social revolution in India, and India was transformed, and this itself is the real monument, the real tribute to Cynthia Farrar. Thank you.